When I was learning about venture, I didn't see anybody who looked like me teaching. Like all my teachers from books and things were white men who now are investors in my fund or friends, right? But I didn't see me. So that was part of it. It's like, again, like every day of my life, I get this feedback. Something I did in 2018 helped this person, right? So it's that visibility. But then before even like the creator economy was a big thing, I looked at it in 2015 and I said, when I did that blog post and so many opportunities came my way for the people I was helping, I have to be visible. You know, if you have decades and decades of mostly white men in an 80 or so year old industry who have all of the purse strings, they control all the money, they control everything, and they also control the voice of this industry. We got to have other people talking. That's why John Henry did his show. You know, that's why he's all over social when you know, back and forth there. So I looked at that 2016 and I said, I'm going to take some of the stuff I learned in previous lives where I was jumping on, you know, MySpace and, you know, had blogs and all kinds of stuff. I'm going to use that to bring opportunity. Again, I didn't have that much money, so you become money. So that's what it was. And I think you did ask me before, I don't think I answered it completely, which is like, what do I want? But beyond the money, I do want the work that we have done at Backstage, our founders, and my story to be known by more people. Because I see the impact it has. You can't deny the impact. Like we have helped create countless, you know this, we were just talking about this, right? You know what this is like. We've helped create countless companies and, you know, get people hired and change their lives. So of course I want more and more people to know about that.
One of those ventures is Higherrunner.co.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
So Higherrunner.co, so for 7 years I ran Backstage, still do, but I ran Backstage and I had to hyper-focus. You have to hyper-focus if you're going to do something big, right? So I focused on that. But I'm also an entrepreneur, and I was that first. And so I kept having this calling back to, I want to do something where I can at least be out there and like be in the trenches with the founders I'm investing in, because that also helps me become a better investor. So I said, what would be aligned so that it's not pulling away from what I'm doing? So I thought about the things that I get asked for the most. The number one thing I get asked for, I'm sure you can imagine, is money. Every day of my life. Like I think the driver pitched me on the way here. Like I had my headphones in and I was like, oh, okay. I get pitched every day, all day long. Just like you all probably get pitched to be on your show. I get pitched, can you invest in my company? But the number two, very close after that, is I need help. Like I need to hire somebody, or I don't know what I don't know. And so it's about people. So Higherrunner.co helps connect fractional, mostly fractional, meaning part-time and kind of gig economy, operators like executive assistants, chiefs of staff, COOs, etc., with companies of all sizes. So from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company, we have them all as customers. And then in about a month and a half, we're launching our app, which will be kind of similar to what Fiverr does, or in Fiverr, I would say that's the one I want to compare it to, where you can go on the app, you have something that you need, maybe you need an EA for a month. You go, we find the person for you, we match you, and then you're off to the races, so you can start the next day.
So you sure 1,000 new millionaires? What's that?
My goal is to help create and catalyze 1,000 new millionaires. UBS says that in 2017, or by 2017, there will be 80 million millionaires in the world. There are about 57 million today. And so that's like 10 million plus over the next years, plus the ones that'll fall off. And, you know, so that's at least 10 million, maybe 12 million a year. I know 1,000 for some people feels like a low number, but I say 1,000 because I juxtapose it against the billionaire. So we have billionaire friends. We know that they're cool, but I don't know if anybody needs that much money. And so, like, what if 1,000 people had the same amount of money, just as a to get started, right? Doesn't mean I want you to stop there, but just like, what if 1,000 people had like enough and had more than enough? What could we influence? What policy could we influence? Quality of life would be lifted. I believe that's my thesis. So that a lot of people are like, why isn't a million a million? And I say, I want to track it. I want to literally be able to tell you the names of the people that I helped and we helped create turn into millionaires by teaching you how to generate revenue and all the things. And if I said a million, it would just be this sort of pie in the sky thing that is more inspirational than tactical.
Is there a global initiative or a plan to expand globally for both Backstage Capital and Higherrunner.co?
So both of them, so Backstage invested outside the country. We have 6 companies we've invested in that out of England who are African founders. And we don't have a mandate on where we can invest. I think for us, so we had an open location in London for half a year in 2019. We were going to expand, and then COVID happened, and so we stopped the expansion. But I think for us, it's just always been about resources. Like we get asked to go everywhere, and like you can imagine, we get like any country in the world you can imagine the same thing is happening for some group of people. So they're saying, can you come here? Like in France, can you come to Paris and like build something in Paris, or can you come to the outskirts in France that nobody's heard of, but we can do the same thing here because we're not getting it. India, parts of Asia, Australia, everybody, indigenous people have asked us to come. My thing is, I want to do that, and I would love to do that with the resources, and we will. But I also know that there are incredible companies in St. Louis who are being overlooked. I also know that there are incredible companies in Jackson, Mississippi, Chicago, Seattle, North Carolina, all the things. And for the rest of my life, I could do this work, and I would not, scratch the surface. So I think that there's definitely a strategy that we need to deepen our well. And we need to deepen our well by, over the next 2 or so years, at least tripling our assets under management. And then we can kind of sprout from there all of the different things that I've wanted to do.
I think you sit in a unique position, right? If you've invested in over 200 companies, predominantly in tech. So I wonder, from your vantage point, obviously we know AI, generative AI. Are there other trends that we should be looking for in technology? And if so, how should entrepreneurs be using it to their advantage in their businesses?
Yeah, I think AI is, I don't think anybody quite has, I think everybody's underestimating the power of AI. I always just, try to keep up with the best I can. I've never been good at looking for trends. I've been good at seeing around corners. Mm-hmm. So for instance, I couldn't tell you, it's the same thing with like clothing and fashion. Like I don't know what's cool, but sometimes I accidentally find things that are cool and they're like, oh, your shoes are incredible. I'm like, I accidentally picked these up because they're pretty, So for me, when I think about just the way people who are, let's even say 50 plus, it's probably even lower than that, but 50 is not elderly, but elderly people, then people who are retiring, and then people who are leaving their businesses and they don't have anybody to hand it off to, people who are in companies, anybody who's 50 over, they're just discounted. You all are probably too young to remember the dinosaur TV show on ABC.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah.
You remember the episode?
That came on after the Wonder Years.
Yes, there's an episode where they have the grandma who was a trip, by the way. I think the grandma was black, but anyway, the grandma was, it was a tradition that when you get a certain age, you just throw the grand people off into the tar pits. And it was just like a tradition, and the husband was real excited because it was like that day, and they did something to kind of turn it around so that she didn't have to get thrown into the tar pits. But I kind of think that's what we do with older people. And obviously the older I get, we all get older, but the older I get and the higher in age I get, the more I'm like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to me in 20 years and whatever? I'll probably be okay. But I think there's so much that we are discounting and missing out and underestimating when it comes to older people and the wisdom that they have and the skill that they have. And so I think there's going to be, I think that things that are both for entrepreneurship for older people, that help with that, and things that are for, end of life, everything in between. I think that's where I would be putting a lot of money.